Hi, this is Rick Yates, Technical Services Manager for GGS Pro and Griffin. Today, we're going to talk about techniques for maximizing the effectiveness and the uniformity of applying Florel. Before we get started, there are some important disclaimers anytime we mention pesticides, and it is the grower, it's incumbent on the grower to make sure they read and follow all the label instructions that are on there, and also a warning that labels do change. And it's important that whenever you bring a new container of a pesticide or plant growth regulator into operation, that you read that label and make sure you're aware of any changes that may have occurred. So the topic for today is really driven by the fact that a lot of growers report that they are frustrated because they don't feel like they get uniform results from one application of Florel to the next. In some cases, it's they're talking to fellow growers that seem to be getting different or better results than they are. And so we want to try to take a look at what are some of the potential causes for inconsistency and how can we level all that out? And the first thing that we really want to discuss is the fact that Florel is not a translaminar systemic. And so in order to get uniform results across the plant, we have to get uniform spray coverage. And that typically means we have to spray from both sides of the plant. And it becomes particularly tricky when we talk about crops such as garden mums, where they're typically grown outside with where the aisleways are spaced fairly far apart. So getting uniform spray coverage can really be a challenge. And that's one of the things that will help you to even out the results that you're getting. The second thing is that we know that Florel, like other plant growth regulators, gives you the most bang for your buck, the most PGR performance when the drying conditions are slow. If it rapidly dries, then we don't get the full effect of it. And so, in greenhouse culture, and especially in the winter, early spring conditions, it's fairly easy to achieve those slower drying conditions. Again, if we're spraying a garden mum crop out in the field, that can be a whole lot trickier. So, try to apply your Florel when drying conditions will indicate slower drying. And the other thing is that, Florel is a stress enhancer. The active ingredient ethifon is a stress enhancer in plants. So if a plant's already under stress due to water stress or having been recently transplanted or they're being produced at a temperature that's outside their ideal range, that the Florel application can intensify that stress and may even lead to a phytotoxicity or another undesirable result. So we want to make sure that we have actively growing plants that aren't under any stress when we make that application. Another thing that's unique to Florel is the fact that it needs to be applied with a spray water pH of 5.0 or below. Now, Florel itself is acidic and it will drop the pH of the spray solution. But if you have highly alkaline water, it may not be acidic enough to overcome the alkalinity in the water, and therefore the pH would be too high and you have greatly reduced effectiveness. Now, some of our smaller growers overcome this when using small amounts. So buy distilled water from the grocery store. Of course, that works great. A lot of our growers, particularly those that are already dealing with high alkalinity water, are acidifying their water, and that typically can be used, and that would be fine. For some other growers, the optimum remedy for them is to use a product called Indicate 5, and it's a spray tank buffering product, and it works on a color change. So you add enough of this product until the spray water turns pink in color, and then you can add your Florel, and it'll work just fine. It will drop the pH of the solution down far enough for you. And last but not least, air temperature dramatically affects the performance of Florel. We're going to take a look at a slide here, and I want to thank Roberto Lopez from Michigan State University for making this slide available. And what you can see is from left to right here that Roberto took two crops that are commonly have Florel applied to them. That would be your petunias as well as ivy geraniums. And they started in increments. They started working them up from 57 degrees up to 79 degrees. And there are two best ways to evaluate the effectiveness of a Florel application would be to see the number of days to bloom and also the number of branches per plant. And as you can see, both in the case of petunias and in the ivy geraniums, we hit a wall somewhere between 73 and 79 degrees. We lost effectiveness of the Florel. You can see those plants are in full bloom and they have a third less breaks per plant than the plants that were treated at cooler temperatures. Again, during the wintertime and early spring, it may be easy to achieve these cooler temperatures, but thinking about those garden mum crops, there's an awful lot of Florel that is applied to them. So we're going to have to be really careful to make sure that the temperature at the time of application is low enough to make sure that we're going to get the effectiveness of the Florel. We're really glad that you tuned in today. And if you have any comments for us, you can use the contact information on this slide to let us know. And if you have any ideas for future broadcasts, we'd like to know that as well. Thanks again.